Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. We are very proud to be the most watched Spurs channel on YouTube in 2024, and we were actually number one in the charts in 4 countries last week on audio platforms. So thank you so much for all of your continued support. We are currently live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook and X. So please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling as a Spurs fan right now and how you are feeling ahead of our Europa League campaign. Of course, it starts against Qarabag on Thursday evening at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. In today's episode, I am joined by 3 very special guests as per normal. We will be discussing the fans forum. We will be previewing Tottenham's Europa League game on Thursday. We will also be hearing from a well-known journalist in Azerbaijan, talking about the game from an opposition point of view. And the panel will also give their predicted lineup. We will also hear from Heung-min Son and Ange Postecoglou from their pre-match press conferences. Before I introduce the guests, we do have this signed shirt available. You can bid on it. The current bid is £420. So thank you so much for all of your bids that we've received so far. The proceeds will actually go to a community centre near Tottenham called the Engine Room. It is a very, very worthy call. So please do get your bids in if you would like to receive this fantastic item. Signed shirt from Ange Postecoglou's first season in charge. Also, we're absolutely delighted to announce that we have been shortlisted again for 2 awards for the Football Content Awards 2024, Best Club Content Creator and Best in Social. Do follow the link on YouTube, and all the details are also on X. So thank you again for your continued support. Now, let's introduce the guests. Craig Dearman is back with us. Craig, how are you?
I'm all good. I haven't moved from Monday. So yeah, it's all good. Yeah, really looking forward to getting back to the stadium tomorrow, actually. First European fixture in a couple of years. I hope it's a sellout or near to a sellout because, you know, these nights are special, I think, regardless. Obviously, if it was Champions League, it would be harder to get the tickets. But it's just good to see European football back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So really, really looking forward to it.
Hear, hear. Europe is back for Tottenham. Fantastic. Also back with us is channel regular Matt Jones. Matt, how are you?
Evening. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Chris. And yeah, echo what Craig says there. It's just good to be back in Europe. You know, it's been too long, and interesting really to get into what we're going to discuss later on in terms of previewing and the fans forum. So yeah, thanks for having me back on.
Thank you so much for being here. And also back with us is channel regular, although it's been a while, Lee the Dorset Spur. Lee, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, Chris. Thanks for having me on again. I know it's been a while. I'm looking forward to chatting with you. It's good to see Craig and Matt again. It's been a while. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Lee, while you're here, promote away your YouTube channel because, of course, you started up a podcast, something that you said, I'll never do that, Chris, but now you're doing it. I'm so glad to see it. Tell everyone about it.
Yeah, so everyone kept going on and on about it. Even you kept saying to me, you should do some more. You should work a bit harder. So I tried to do a regular slot. It started off, we're calling it Shooting the Shit, which I know is not politically correct, but listen, when have I ever been politically correct? We've got Sweary Alex on there and our old friend Dean, who's been on this show loads of times. So yeah, we do that. We record on a Tuesday, put it out at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, and we put it on Spotify as well for those guys that are kind of walking a dog or driving or whatever. It gives them that option. So it started small, but we'll see. You know, we'll see if it goes in again. I think we're getting a little bit better as time goes on. I thought yesterday's one that we put out today went a bit better than it's done previously, but we'll see. We'll wait for the feedback and see what it says.
Well, good luck with it, Lee. I'm sure it'll be a huge success. Craig, let's start the show with you. I just want to get the sense of feeling right now with the 3 of you going into our Europa League campaign. How are you feeling right now? What have you made of the last week or so? Because although that Coventry game was very nervy for a lot of us, we got through to the next round. Of course, the Carabao Cup 4th round draw will take place on Wednesday evening. We'll bring you full details of that when we have it. And of course, our win against Brentford. So it was a successful week. 2 really good results.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't ask for more than that. Yeah, Coventry was a bit dicey, wasn't it? I mean, I genuinely thought we were on our way out there. But we got through it. And a great performance against Brentford at the weekend. more importantly for me, to see Brendan Johnson get 2 goals was brilliant. Good for him, getting the confidence up. I'm hoping we've turned a corner now. I've spoke to a couple of friends over the last few days, and they said exactly that. They hope that the club has turned a corner now. They think we have. Thank you. And yeah, I think another win tomorrow night. It's got to only be good going into the Manchester United game, which is going to be tough. We know it's going to be tough. But the momentum, we've got to keep this momentum up and put down have a statement win. It'd be lovely tomorrow to get another win under our belts and get off to a good start in the Europa League, of course, which would be lovely.
Matt, let's come to you. How are you feeling about the last week or so, that win at Coventry? I know I saw you before the game. We wanted Ange Postecoglou to go extremely strong. He made 8 changes. I spoke to you after the game as well on the way home. I know it was mixed feelings all round, but back to normal, beating Brentford 3-1 at the weekend.
Yeah, I think similar to Craig, really. It was looking dicey, wasn't it? I was surprised, to be honest with you, that we made that many changes. As I said to you, Chris, 8, it shades of Fulham last season, and you're worrying, are we going to make the same mistake twice? And first half was pretty poor. But as Ange said, we hung in there, got the result, and that's all that matters, into the next round. And I think for me, and I think for most of the fans, we want to make sure we're taking these competitions as seriously as we can. So yeah, the result was all that mattered on the night. And then Brentford, obviously much stronger lineup. I thought we played really well the weekend, really kind of on the front foot. Obviously, worst possible start, but it didn't really phase us. I thought that kind of, we went straight at Brentford, scored straight away. Great for Solanke to get his first goal, obviously. And obviously, Brendan Johnson, another great finish from him. So particularly pleased for him, given the week he had had. And tomorrow night, I just hope we take that seriously, because I think Europa League, and we'll come on to that, but it's so important, such an important competition for us this season, that we give that the respect it requires. And then obviously Sunday, Man United away, and then we're going to have Brighton again, away in the league. So hopefully we're getting some form together, but we just need a run of results now and a bit of consistency to back up the performances, because some of the other stats, as we've seen recently, are positive. It's just the results and trying to put a run of those together.
Matt, when you said about the Europa League being an important competition, how important are the cup competitions to you?
Sorry?
How important are the cup competitions to you? The FA Cup, the League Cup, Europe?
I think massively. I mean, we're all crying out for some silverware now. It has been too long. I think the Europa League, obviously now, if you win that, it secures you Champions League football, is something we've really got to take seriously. And the FA Cup, obviously that's a little way off, but I think we should be really putting out our strongest possible team to take those competitions seriously, because the league, we can see how competitive the Premier League is going to be this season, and actually we want some success in those competitions. So for me, I think Europa League's the main one, but I hope we take all of them seriously and really try and go out to win every game. Ange has been saying we've got to back that up, haven't we, with our results.
Lee, let's come to you. It's been a while since you've been on the channel, so let me ask you about how you're feeling as a Spurs fan overall. Of course, we had a number of defeats at the end of last season, finished 5th, got into the Europa League, which we'll talk about shortly. But what have you made of the season so far? 5 Premier League games in, of course, that win at Coventry. What have you made of the past week? And also, what I wanted to ask you is, what have you made of all of the criticism for Ange Postecoglou?
Yeah, it's a really strange one, isn't it, Chris? To be honest with you, last season obviously ended up as a disappointment, because of the early momentum and the great play that we had. But it was a really difficult season. First season in, we knew that there was loads to change, from players to staff to everything. So I was expecting, getting into Europe, I thought was a good start, a good stepping stone. So in the end, I was quite sort of, Champions League was a step too far last season. Coming into this season, I've been really shocked at the amount of criticism that's been around the club and the negativity. And I guess I've actually, to be honest, I've actually deleted all of my social media. I stay off of it now because it's just really driving me mad. There are certain kind of channels and Twitter people and all the rest of it that I just literally cannot listen to it anymore. I can't take it. But you have to have it.
It's got that bad for you.
Yeah, I just like, honestly, I've been supporting this club for best part of 50 years. And I don't think we've ever been as good as we were in the 80s. We might have won a couple of competitions here and there, but the 80s was our last time we were really any good. But everyone's just lumping on this last season or this last 20 years or whatever. Mate, it's been like that for years. But you love your club, don't you? Like all four of us in this now, we all love our club. We might love it differently. We might want different things. We might think different things. We might have a different opinion on things. But the one thing that drives us all together is we love our club and we want it to do well.
Yeah.
But I just can't live with the negativity of it all. That really drives me mad. And so I was so chuffed to see the performance on the weekend made such a difference and bought Ange a little bit of time again for those people to quieten down, although they've not quietened down too much, I don't think. Coventry was a nightmare game, like watching that in the pub, getting ripped by all these other fans and stuff like that. But to win it right at the end, I don't think there's anything better than that. Like when you win in the last kick of the game, it's like that's better than anything, really. Just, putting you through sort of 90 minutes odd of that pain. But you win, and that's what's important. And going on forward now, we've got to get a result against Qarabag. If we can do that, and get into the game against Man United. Even if we don't win against Man United, if we put in a bloody good performance, then at least you can build on that. You ain't going to fix it in a season and 5 games. It's just not going to happen. There's just so much that needs to be cleared out. I mean, this squad now is totally different to what we had 2 seasons ago, and it continues, and it's going to keep continuing. So that's just how I feel about it. And I'm sorry I've rambled on. As I always do.
I was going to say, Lee, surely it is about being realistic, because Ange has said on a number of occasions, throughout his career at Spurs so far, even recently at the Fans Forum that we'll talk about shortly, that, it's going to take time. It is a process. It is a rebuild.
Yeah, but at the same time as that, he's saying you can dream. No one's telling you can't dream. No one's telling you can't think what if and enjoy the good times. If you turn up for a football match like Brentford at the weekend, we played well, right? Brennan Johnson gets on the score sheet again. Solanke scores his first goal for the club. Maddison gets man of the match. Kulu looks good. Bentancur looks good. And at the same time, you've got people complaining because it's just Brentford. I'm like, it's a Premier League team. I go there to see my team win. They won. They won in style. I'm happy with that. I enjoy that day. That's what you've got to do. Enjoy that day and see what happens to the next one.
Lee, can I just pick you up on you saying that you've deleted your social medias or don't post anymore? What do you make of the whole Brennan Johnson situation? Because it's interesting to hear not only you as a fan, but you as a YouTuber to do that is quite remarkable.
Yeah, it's all still there, right? So the apps I've just deleted all the apps and I've just stayed off of it. The only thing I've been doing is dipping in, posting my links to my channel when I've done something, and then I just delete it again. I absolutely think it's disgusting how Brennan Johnson's been treated, but it happens all the time with multiple players, right? And we all talk about, and I saw Gary, and I'm a big friend of Gary. I love Gary to bits, and I listen to him talking, and I understand where he's coming from. But just because you've got loads of money doesn't stop you being a person. And I'm a dad and a granddad. And I can you imagine, Brennan Johnson's dad was in the crowd, right? Can you imagine how that must feel having people, and not necessarily in the crowd there, because I don't necessarily think it's the fans that go to the grounds. Generally speaking, the fans that go to the grounds are very supportive.
I agree.
But to be there and kind of feel that negativity about someone you love must be really difficult. And as a person, you've got to be strong to get through that. There's lots of problems we talk about mental health all the time these days.
Yeah.
And yet we can go on a keyboard warrior and wish ill on all these people and not even think about the consequence of that. And I just find it really sad, if I'm honest. And you'll probably find there'll be people that give you some abuse on it because I've got this opinion. But it's my opinion. I own it. I don't care what you think. This is my opinion. And if you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to. But that's my opinion. And I'll stick to it.
Sadly, though, Lee, we don't. Sometimes we get abused for not even saying anything. Just for what you do or what or where you are. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's talk about the fans forum. Of course, the fans forum took place on Monday at the Monday evening at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm going to break this up into sections. Now, first of all, I'm going to read you some key quotes from Chairman Daniel Levy from the fans forum. He said, "We believe that this club needs bigger capital. We're going to have ups and downs, but we are on the right track." Talking about senior season tickets, he said it's a very complicated subject. We have to have space to bring through new fans. Talking about the best advice that he has ever been given, it was never give up. He said, "I don't apologise. We're giving it all to the team," and that is talking about money from concerts, NFL, etc. Asked when he was asked about his 3 proudest moments as chairman, he said getting to the Champions League final, the building of the stadium, and having great attacking players such as Qarabag, Berbatov, and Harry Kane. What do you make of those comments from Daniel Levy, Craig, in the fans forum?
Firstly, I'll just congratulate Lee on what he said. I thought there was an excellent monologue, by the way, and very similar to the one I gave the other week. So, yeah, social media is absolutely toxic. And, there's part of me that wants Brendan Johnson wanted to come back and start arguing with these people, but it's probably best to keep quiet. I know when somebody's abused Ricky Gervais, he's retweeted the tweet and said, "Abuse this twat, please." And of course, all his followers abuse the person, and the bloke never does it again. But it's a slightly different situation. I don't think that would work for Brendan Johnson. But yeah, I'm so glad he's got the goals. Hopefully, people stay off his back. 22-year-old kid. I try to put himself in my position. If that was my son out there, my son's a bit younger. He's 17. You'd just feel heartbroken, wouldn't you, if your son was getting abused like that? So absolutely, we're behind him 100%. I know he's not hit the heights everybody hopes, but you know what? I think sometimes people ask too much of a player. He's growing into it. He's going to grow into the role. He is getting better. So let's hope. Yeah, exactly. Let's hope he does. Anyway, fans forum, Daniel Levy's comments. Yeah, interesting. I thought I didn't think Daniel Levy was that bad. I thought he was reasonably, from what I could tell, quite honest. He was quite. He could have expanded a bit more on the concessions bit, to be honest, but I genuinely don't think that they probably know what's going on yet. They've obviously put it out there. I just hope they relent a bit and come to some form of compromise about what they're planning to do. I do get, from a business perspective, if they kept giving concessions to over, is it 60, 65s? I don't know what the actual number is. Eventually you can't keep doing that. I do get that as a business model. They're gonna be losing money, but they surely have to reward the long-term fans. There was somebody who I saw on social media that was, I'm guessing the gentleman was in his 70s or 80s. He'd been going for 40, 50 years, and things are tough, right? If you're a pensioner and that, and if you don't get those concessions, then you might not be able to go, and that's heartbreaking, isn't it? If you've supported the club that long, people like that especially should be given some form of help with their tickets. So that'll all come out in the wash, no doubt. I'll be watching that with interest to see what the club does, and hopefully the club does do the right thing there.
Can I just say, Craig, we do have a lot of viewers and listeners over 65 on this channel, and they're a big fan of you, a lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely, and I totally get that, and it's great. That's why I said the people, like this gentleman in his 80s, he needs to be. It's the right thing to do. So I just hope that they relent a bit and backtrack a little bit and come to a decent solution to this, because it is the right thing to do. It really is, and surely the club must see that. I do get it, what they're saying from a business perspective, but sometimes that's not what it's all about. Well, in fact, it's probably not what it's all about most of the time for me. The fans are the most important thing. If you haven't got the fans, then you haven't got anyone. So, yeah. What are the other things he spoke about there? The best advice he's been given is never give up. I would like to have seen somebody ask him, Daniel, if you'd employed yourself, would you have sacked yourself many years ago for many failures? That's what I'd have probably asked him. you've got to say he's got the skin of a rhino, Daniel Levy, because he just doesn't care. He doesn't seem to care, and perhaps you've got to have that as the chairman or CEO, whatever he is, at Tottenham Hotspur. As I say, I thought his performance was okay, and that's what it was. It was a performance. I just wish that, I know we'll get into it, I just wish that I've got an opinion on how the questions, I think they were very aware of what questions were going to be asked at that thing last night. A bit like Prime Minister's question time. I'd have preferred there to be more questions that were a bit more deep diving, should we say. So,
Craig, realistically, yeah. if you were in the crowd and you could have asked Daniel Levy a question, what would it have been?
Exactly what I said earlier,
Okay.
Words to the effect that, if you'd employed yourself, would you have sacked yourself? Because you've made so many errors. Because other members of staff have made a lot less errors than that and cost the club a lot less money, and, got to take so much responsibility for that.
Craig, also, what do you make of the comments saying about 3 proudest moments? Because I think a lot of people were disappointed that he didn't say our only trophy under Daniel Levy's chairmanship. Yeah,
that was a bit of a weird one. And the fact he didn't say bringing players through, he might have just forgotten that one of the best players we've ever had was sitting three down from him, and he didn't even mention Son, which I thought
I was going to say that, yeah.
But yeah, you would have thought the only trophy, perhaps he knew that the people would have thought, oh, that's just the Qarabağ Cup or whatever it was. That's probably what it was, to be honest. Daniel was not a stupid person. I get the Champions League final, but I personally would have mentioned the trophy. The stadium I get, because that was a huge thing, wasn't it? It was his baby, and a brilliant stadium it is. You cannot fault him on that thing. Yeah, I'd have probably hoped that he would have said the trophy.
Matt, what do you make of Daniel Levy's comments? And also, let's discuss him saying, "I don't apologise. We're giving it all to the team," because I know some fans have been quite critical in the fact that we moved to the stadium in 2019 and they've expected a lot bigger and better signings that we've had so far. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for me, I actually think both Levy and Ange came pretty well. It does feel a little bit controlled, if I'm honest. It did feel very controlled in terms of the line of questioning, and similar to Craig, really, I would have liked to see him go into kind of deeper areas, a lot deeper on certainly around transfer strategy, etc. And I think for me, if I was there, I'd like to know what they're going to do about closing the gap with some of our rivals. How are we going to be competitive? How are we going to grow and fight for for bigger honours, really. I think that's the concern for me. We've moved to the stadium. Champions League football is evading us at the moment. We need to obviously get that back. And you look at how we finished at the Lane. We were strong consistently in the top 4. We need to get back to that position for me as a minimum. We are building. It does take time, as Lee said. I think people have got to have a bit of balance with Ange. The football's better, but the results have got to start coming. That's evident for us to see, and it's not just looking to the beginning of this season, it's looking the back end of last season. So we need to get some consistency there. The stats are showing that the football's right. With the attacking football, we're creating the chances, we're just not putting the ball in the back of the net enough, and that will come. I'm sure it will come, but again, January will soon be on us. We need to obviously be adding quality. For me, if we're bringing players in, I think in terms of the summer transfer window, very good job in moving players out. Absolutely, that was excellent, but slightly underwhelmed with with what we had in terms of what we had come in. Obviously, we brought Gray in, and Solanke has obviously been a good acquisition. But looking ahead, we need to obviously be bringing in people that are going to hit the ground running, bring in additional qualities to the starting 11, and make us more competitive. And that's the frustrating thing. It's taking probably slightly longer than we all thought, and we have gone round in circles a bit since Pochettino left us. So we need stability, and I think that's obviously where people have got to maintain a bit of balance with Ange and give him the time. But results have got to back that up, and we do need to bring in that kind of next level of player. And I do get it's hard, we're not saying go and spend recklessly. We've got to be smart with our recruitment, but we do need to bring in that quality, Chris, I think, to take that next step up and be consistently in that top 4. That's got to be where we're looking to get to on the domestic front.
Matt, all of the conversations that you and I have had, we both know and we both agree fully on how cup competitions are so important to both of us. Now, Daniel Levy, during the fans forum, also said there are too many competitions. I think he was mainly referring to the League Cup. Now, when Ange Postecoglou came in, he was only a couple of games in, and he made 9 changes against Fulham, which frustrated a lot of people. 8 changes against Coventry. How do you think that Ange will approach this competition going forward? Will we keep seeing the rotating of so many players, particularly after what Daniel Levy has said? Because I think it was a bit of a surprise to some fans, the fact that they've actually come out and said, well, we're rotating. There's too many games.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. I mean, obviously, got the format now in the European competitions. There's more games. I suppose in answer to your question, I don't think it will change, to be honest with you. It will be contingent on who we draw in the next round as well, I think, in terms of the team we field. But I think predominantly he's going to want to stay similar to that lineup that we fielded against Coventry. And he's going to want to, give some of the players, the fringe players more minutes, which is fine. But you do then run the risk of potentially going out. And for me, I'm a firm believer. I'd rather start strong, which we'll come on to for tomorrow's game, try and get the game won, and then start bringing some of the youngsters in, on the hour and making changes. It seems to me sometimes we can make life very difficult for ourselves. And then, like we did at Coventry, you bring in Maddison on, you bring in others. And yeah, for me, it's kind of start strong, try and get the games won, and then start bringing in the younger players and giving them time. But I don't think he'll change hugely Carabao Cup. I think obviously Europa League is going to have a greater focus now.
Lee, what did you make of Daniel Levy's comments at the forum?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you've got to get it right. This is a PR stunt, right? This is a PR thing to try to get their message across in an environment that's seen as if it includes fans and all the rest of it. They're not going to invite along people that are going to ask them those really difficult questions, those probing questions. This is about trying to make people feel good and so on.
Do you know anyone personally that was there, Lee?
No. So I just think Daniel Levy's not a stupid man, right? He's a businessman. He's been around a long time. He used to sell some really nice shirts in Mr. Byrights. Used to shop there myself in Milton Keynes. So I know that he's you're laughing, but I did. So I know he's not a stupid man, right? So he's not going to chuck himself under the bus. If he'd have said a proud moment was winning the Carabao Cup, the whole lot would have gone mental about, see, that's his best thing he's done. He's win a Carabao Cup. What a load of, So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right? So
but there is that fact, Lee, that he said a game that we actually lost. So people could still criticise that, couldn't they?
And they have, right? But, how many teams can say they've got to a Champions League final? It's not an easy fate, is it, to get there? So I can understand why he would call that out, to be that close, right? If it wasn't for a dodgy penalty, but we've been there. So, at the end of the day, I can understand why he called that out. For me personally, I'd have said more about bringing through the players, as Craig said. I mean, you talk about, Harry Kane, for instance, a player who's come through and gone right to the top, England captain and all the rest of it. How you can't kind of call that out as a proud moment. I don't know. I think there's lots he could have said, really. But I do want to pick up on the seniors. Obviously, getting close to that sort of age myself. For me, I think it's an absolute PR disaster. I genuinely think that it's one of the things that they really need to rethink. Absolutely. I understand the element of you want to bring through youth, you want to bring through the next generation of fans and all the rest of it. Okay. Well, where's, what sort of concessions are we giving for that then, to encourage those, young fans, season tickets or, children's, standing areas or whatever it might be. How are we doing that? How are they doing that as well to make sure that there is that longevity? Because people that are the older generation, like myself, right? So my son's a Tottenham fan. my son-in-law's a Tottenham fan. Two of my grandsons are Tottenham fans that want to go to games. Right? They only go because I went, because I happened to stumble upon it back in the 70s, right? So that's you're going to replace those people. But if you start treating people like they're not required, then of course, you're going to disenchant the next generation rather than create space for the next generation. And I just think it's an absolute disgrace. Someone that's been going for, 30, 40, 50, 60 years in some cases, are being priced out of it, because we pay so much money for these tickets. Season tickets are not cheap, as you guys know. But and to go to games and everything, you've still got to get there. You've still got to eat and all the rest, and that's not cheap either. You're pricing the proper fans out of the stadium, and I get it, but you're making far more money now on the fact that you've got double the bloody capacity. You've also got stadium tours, F1, people walking around the top. You've got so much other stuff. You've got this huge, biggest shop in Europe and all the rest of it, and it's jam-packed every match day. Like, you've got money coming in. You should be thinking about the fans and the longevity of the fans. So for me, that's the biggest thing really. It needs to be called out, and I hope the fans do get behind the seniors thing to get that turned over.
The last section, talking about Daniel Levy, I wanted to discuss is he said, Lee, we believe this club needs bigger capital. It's been widely reported, and Daniel Levy has come out before and said that the club, would like investment. Are you surprised by this?
No, not really, because I think, Daniel Levy's got other things going on and that in the world. That's why he brought Scott Munn in and all the rest of it, to try to, I think he would ideally like to step into the background and not be a focal point and not have to go to this sort of thing. Because I think he's the sort of guy that probably wants to just be out of the way, but he brings a lot of this stuff on himself. But I think if you're going to compete with, nation states and people that are just doing it for fun, then it needs an awful lot of money. And if you're not prepared to do that yourself, which clearly Daniel Levy isn't prepared to do that himself, or the owners of ENIC or whoever, then you want to encourage other people to put some money in and help you along the way. And it makes sense. It keeps the stability of your club, there, financially viable and all the rest of it. Keeps you off the radar of someone walking away and it all collapsing around your ears, which we've seen in the past. So it seems a sensible way to kind of go, in my mind. If he's not prepared to do, what some of these other people are prepared to do, then that's the next best option, isn't it?
Craig, can I ask? I feel that it would be more beneficial, and I think a lot of fans would really enjoy going to a fans forum just with the board members or just with Daniel Levy there, because of course Daniel Levy was there, Postecoglou, Heung-min Son, Johan Langer, Robert Villeham, and Beth England. So 6 people on the panel or on the stage on Monday evening. Do you think that the fans would get more answers if it was just board members?
Yeah, I do. I don't think you'll ever see it, if I'm brutally honest.
Why?
But that would. I just don't think it's something they would do, and especially inviting fans where they haven't had sight of the questions. I'm convinced they would have had sight of some of those questions last night. If you go into a room, 150, 200 people with the Tottenham board out in front, and you're saying, right, who's got a question? Everybody put their hand up. So obviously you can't get through everybody, but you just pick people, and the questions they get asked would be pretty probing. And for that reason, I just don't think they're going to do it. They're not going to put themselves out in front of the fans. I just don't think they're going to do it.
What other, Craig, you're right, but what other business would, what other business would sit there and let the people that are, I don't know, how do you do, people that are, consumers of their business, ask them questions about how they're running their business? No one else is going to. It's only football that would kind of go down that road, isn't it? Really.
Do you know why I asked the question, Lee? Because it was. I've just looked at the date, April 2023. Daniel Levy had a Q&A at Cambridge University, and I don't think he expected a lot of those questions to be put to him because he thought it was about business and economics, but a lot of it turned into Tottenham questions. So it seems that it could or should be fair for the Tottenham fans to be putting those sorts of questions to the board. Do you not think?
No, I absolutely do think. I absolutely do think it's reasonable and right that the fans get to ask the important questions to them. But in terms of from a business point of view, if you're a businessman, they own the club. It's their business, and they can do what they want with it if they really want to. There's nothing we can do about it because their relationship with this club is different from ours. We're fans, right? We're addicts to this club. We will be there regardless. If we were playing on Hackney Marshes, we would still go and watch them, right? That's how invested we are with it. You know, we wear their name on our arms and all the rest of it, all this sort of business. Because we are Tottenham fans, we'd fight tooth and nail for it. Owners of football clubs, that's different. They're not the same as us. And I think the sooner us fans realise that they're not the same as us, the better, to be honest.
It's a good point because, of course, board members come and go, managers come and go, players come and go. The fans are always there, and you're absolutely right, Lee. If we were in League Two and we were playing Rochdale away on a Tuesday night, I'd be there. Yeah. Absolutely right. Craig, let's come to you. Let's talk a little bit about Heung-min Son's comments, his key quotes in the fans forum. Talking about Romero, he said he is a leader. Talking about Brennan Johnson, he said that he has had unbelievable support from the team. Everyone has to step up in the final third. The hard part is the final third, but everyone has to take more care. Talking about his favourite ever Tottenham Hotspur player, he said it is Ben Davies. Advice, best advice he's ever been given is don't forget how you started. And talking about his future, this is an interesting one. He said, we never know the future. Of course, we know that there is a 1-year option for Spurs to activate his contract for another year. What did you make of Sonny's comments? And I must say, these key quotes and comments from Son and Postecoglou, I feel like we've heard a lot of them before in the past few weeks because, of course, Ange does press conferences week in, week out, and Heung-min Son, as captain, does a lot of talking.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Sonny was good. The only bit that did worry me a bit was the last two at the end where they did ask him that exact question, and I expected him to say, I think the question, I'm paraphrasing, was the question something like, do you see yourself finishing your career at Tottenham, was the question.
Yeah.
And I just expected him to turn around and say, yeah, I'd like to, but that wasn't his answer. Yeah. As you said, he said, you never know what the future holds, which I don't know quite what to make of that, if I'm brutally honest. There is rumours that Tottenham are going to take up the option at the end of the season to extend his contract for another year, which I hope they do. That was the first time I think I've ever heard Sonny say anything like that. So whether he's actually thinking about ending his career somewhere else, I don't know.
It seemed quite awkward, Craig, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. He didn't want to. You could tell in his body language he didn't want to answer it almost. Yeah, it was weird. Perhaps he is looking to move on, but then again, there's the club's option to extend it another year.
Yeah,
Sonny can obviously put in a transfer request, but it's the club's option to do that. So, and what's he going to be, 33 next year? So, but look, I think he's got enough credit in the bank to warrant another year on his contract. To be fair, I think he's more than a captain around that place. So I think the club needs players like Sonny. I thought he was good last night, though.
Matt, what did you make of Sonny's comments?
Yeah, similar to Craig, really. I was surprised with that last point. You would have just thought he would have said, yeah, I want to see my career out here. Yeah. Equally, he may well have been advised to take that line. You know, if you're trying to obviously get an improved contract potentially, he may well want to stay, but he's keeping his cards close to his chest and keeping his options open. But yeah, I think he came across really well, and he has been a top pro for us, you know, and we certainly should be looking to obviously get that extension, in my opinion. You know, obviously form has dipped at times, and for me, obviously hasn't looked quite right, obviously since Kane departed. But you know, I think obviously now with Solanke in there, hopefully they're going to build up an understanding, and he's always a threat on his day, Sonny. Yeah, it's just been a good pro, but I was really taken back with that response, or really surprised that he came out with that in terms of his.
Do you know what, Matt? It might have been somebody had made a very good point in the comments there. It might be that he wants to play one season in South Korea for perhaps his boyhood team or his local team. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. And he just didn't want to say. I mean, I think we can say with 100% certainty that you'd never go to another top Premier League club.
Premier League. No.
So wherever he goes in Europe, who knows? He might want to go back to Germany. I don't know, but my gut tells me he'd want to see out his career in Korea.
Yeah. And we wouldn't begrudge him that, would we? And I'd agree with you with the Premier League. He genuinely loves Tottenham. He wouldn't go to another Premier League team. We'll see. We'll see.
When you say Germany, Craig, you thinking Bayern Munich to hook up with Harry Kane again?
I hadn't actually thought that actually, but I know he played. Where did we buy him from? Hoffenheim, was it something like that, or Bayern Leverkusen? I can't remember. Somebody will tell us, I'm sure. I can't remember where we bought him from. But God, that's frightening, isn't it? Imagine that. Sonny goes to Bayern Munich. I think Kane will be back at Spurs before that happens anyway.
Lee,
Leverkusen, yeah. Was.
Lee, what have you made of Heung-min Son this season, and what do you make of his comments in the forum?
Yeah, I guess pretty much the same as the other guys have said. I think the other thing is, like you say, he's coming towards the end of his contract, so is he looking for a bit more of a secure deal that takes him a bit longer? Have the club said something to him about, where he's, that they may not want him to finish his career at the club. They may want to cash in at some point. They'll probably take up the option and then see where he's going, and if they can get some money for him, they probably would do. I think you're right. I think he probably would rather go to somewhere in Korea maybe, or indeed Germany. I think he's obviously got those links there as well. But for me, Sonny's always been a great pro. I think he's always an option, isn't he? And he generally does deliver. You can't carry on forever, and you are going to hit blips in the road. But even this season, if you look at last season, I think most of us said that he probably had a fairly poor season, but that was based on his standards. So, I personally think, he'll come good. I think his partnership with Maddison is important. I think he's a sort of person who sort of thrives off of that relationship. And I think with him and Kane was so good. I think if he can get something similar with Maddison, then I think that's a really good way forward. And you can kind of see how that kind of works, and Maddison calling him out and saying how great he is as well at the weekend. So I think there's still plenty to come from him. I don't want to see him go just yet. But there will inevitably be a time when he has to go, because players come and players go, even the best of them. So we move on and Tottenham carries on. That
will seem weird when Son is not at Tottenham. That will seem weird for me, really weird. But that's Son and Kane. Lee, let's stay with you, because Ange Postecoglou, of course, was at the fans forum as well. He said, we've had a great week. We're working to build something. We've still got some real work to do. I want to win every game. And that was talking about team selection. It took him a whole two and a bit games to score, talking about Dominic Solanke. We look for personality and character, talking about signing new players, talking about the advice he was given, work harder than anyone else. He then went on to say, I always thought it was a positive thing, and that was talking about winning something in his second season. There was a bit of a joke there as well about that. Talking about style, he said, I'm still a fan. It's just not about the win. It is all about the style. He then went on to say, it won't be us. It will we'll win our way. That is about will Ange be more pragmatic in games defensively? Nothing I would do differently. That was an interesting question. Would Ange Postecoglou do anything differently looking back in his first season? He said no. What comes first is the way that we play. Training or game time. This is talking about players going out on loan. He said, I love the fact that Alfie Devine has gone overseas. What have you made of Ange Postecoglou, Lee, since arriving at Tottenham? And what do you make of these comments in the fans forum? And as I said, we've heard quite a bit of this before in previous press conferences. Yeah, I mean, Ange has always been consistent in his approach, right? I mean, I personally love the fact that he is straight and
clear on what he's saying. It doesn't always feel like there's more. I mean, I think back to even with Poch, you know, sometimes you're talking riddles and you didn't know what he was meaning by it and all that kind of stuff. And I would much rather someone say exactly what they're thinking and all the rest of it. I love his empathy. I love the way he thinks about things and kind of talks to a certain extent like a fan. You know,
I think you two would get on like a house on fire.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. No, but I do think, you know, he talks openly and he talks honestly from his heart of how he feels. If you believe, if you've been successful in what you've been doing at whatever level, and it doesn't matter, everyone can poo-poo every other level, but you still got to win, right? If you believe in what you're doing, why would you go, oh, I'll do something differently there? If you believe in how you work, and it's going to deliver the results, and you believe in yourself, because you've got to believe in yourself to be successful. You've got to feel that you're doing the right things. So for me, I like Ange. It annoys me sometimes when you watch the football and you think, you know, you just get a defender to drop back there, Ange. You know, you can kind of see it coming, and we sit there and we're panicking about, you know, playing out from the back and all the rest of it. But if you've got a way of playing, and you're drilling your players to play, and you get the right players to play it, it doesn't matter what the other team do. If you're too good at what you do, that stops them doing what they want to do. So for me, like you say, a lot of the stuff he says, we've heard it all before. We hear it, but I like that. I like that approach. I don't like the mind games. I don't like the talking in riddles and all that nonsense that we've seen from plenty of other managers over the last too many years to mention, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I want to give him the season. I think there'll be ups and downs, but I still want to give the full season. 2 years is nothing when you're from where you're starting. We're starting at such a low point. You know, people stopped going to games because it was that bad. You know, and no one wanted to listen to the managers, and everyone hated everybody, and it was like a big, you know. And for me, coming in, breath of fresh air, started pulling people in together, trying to show a direction of where he's going, had a plan of what he wanted to achieve and all the rest of it. For me, that feels like the right way. But, you know, like they say, I might be an happy clapper, I don't know, but that's just how I feel about it.
Oh, we don't need to be put into categories, Lee. It's how we feel. And as you said at the start of the show, you know, we all want the same thing. Every single fan wants the same thing, success. You're getting a lot of love, actually, in the comments, which might surprise you. A lot of people agree with what you say. So if you do agree with Lee and you like what he's saying, head over to his channel and hit that subscribe button. Craig, what did you make of Ange Postecoglou's comments at the forum?
I thought he was very good, but then again, I think he's a very good talker. Whenever I see him interviewed, he's typical Aussie, isn't he? The dry sense of humour. And just the way he carries himself, you could put him in. He could almost talk about something that he knows nothing about, and he would make it make sense and make you think that he actually does understand it. He's that good. I don't think he's. Somebody said in the comments there, he's a straight shooter. He is exactly that. I don't get the impression he's lied to us, or he doesn't try and conceal anything really from the fans. Whereas, like you said, I love Poch, but some of the things he come out with, I agree with Lee, it was so cryptic. Didn't quite understand what he was talking about. Mourinho and Conte were masters of that. Even though some of their press conferences were box office on their own, you know, you never really felt like you got that much information out of them. Ange, I always still watch his press conferences, which says to me, if I'm watching a manager's press conference, I'm still invested in that manager. And I'm well invested into Ange. I still, you know, I don't get the negativity. I get the frustration. I totally get the frustration. But we've got to be patient. And I know that's difficult in today's day and age to be patient, but we've got to give this guy a decent stab at this and a decent run at it, because it hasn't worked before, giving a manager a year, not even a year, not even a season. Ange was the first manager to have a full season last season since Poch left, which is incredible. So we've got to change the way we look at this, and I just hope they stick with him, because I still maintain that he is the manager, that he will bring us silverware. but I thought his answers were brilliant last night. I thought he was very good. He clearly didn't really want to be there. I don't think that's his thing to do that. He obviously not his. I think he'd rather be at home in front of the telly or sitting down with a glass of wine or going out for a meal or something, like anything but be on the stage talking to people. But he's very good at it. He is very good at it. And I think other managers would have not performed as well as he did. So, yeah, I was very pleased with the way he came across.
I think it's fair to say as well that Daniel Levy publicly is backing Ange Postecoglou despite all of the negativity online on social media, because his comments there, we are going to have ups and downs, but we're on the right track. That's clearly aimed at Ange Postecoglou and the way that we're doing things as a football club right now. But I completely agree with what you said there, Craig. Matt, what did you make of Ange's comments at the fans forum?
Yeah, I think he does always speak very well, very honest. He's very candid, and a bit like Lee said earlier, you know where you stand with him. So that's one thing I think has been great that he brought to the club. He's changed the whole culture. There's definitely a different feel around the club. I suppose for me, it's and I think just going on your point there, Chris, about Daniel Levy, I was really surprised how publicly he was speaking in that vein from a strategic point of view. They were kind of in it for the mid to long term, which we've not necessarily seen before. So, it may have been potentially different if we had exited against Coventry last week. But I think, he's trying to get it in the right direction. I think for me, it's just something about if he can just be a little bit more flexible in certain games. I do like that he backs himself, and the football for all of us is playing the Tottenham way. And I really like some of the comments last night where he was saying, we're going to do it. If we're going to win a trophy, we're going to do it our way, and that's what we want to do. You want to do it in style. You want to do it in the Tottenham way. And that's obviously great to hear. Just got to back that up with obviously the results. And I just like I say, coming back to my point, I think there's been so much criticism with the high line, and that's how he's always played. And I just think obviously the Premier League is a different beast. And I just hope that at some point he can reflect on that. All the best do reflect on it and tweak in certain games. I'm not saying he needs to do it all the time. We want to play the front foot football, but there will be times, Man City, some of the bigger teams, where we just need to perhaps sit in and manage games a little bit better. And I think it will come, in the final third. Solanke now, obviously, he's going to hopefully start getting a few games together. He's got his first goal. Hopefully, he can stay injury-free, and the goals will start to flow. So, I think overall he came across very well. Not a surprise. And you can see what he's trying to do in terms of the profile of the squad. They're trying to grow and develop younger players. But as the guys have said, it's going to take a bit of time.
Lee, let's come to you. Johan Lange was also there. And one word that they keep using is alignment, about everyone being aligned, everyone being, going for the same thing. And they're always talking about the future. How refreshing is that to you as a fan, that they're always thinking about the future? Because, of course, they gave Ange Postecoglou a 4-year contract. Everything is always towards the future. I know some fans have criticised, and some of the guys on this panel tonight, including myself, have said that we didn't do enough in the transfer window. But they are planning for the future. They're constantly saying about, the older players, the younger players having that good mix. So when some of the older players are faded out, some of the younger players will replace them and they will move in. They're also talking about the academy, the pre-academy. They're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. They've put so much more money and investment into the academy and the pre-academy as well. It is constantly, these guys on the board now are constantly talking about the future. How refreshing is that for you?
Yeah, personally, I think it's a massive thing. It's stuff that we don't appreciate or think about as fans, right? And why should we, right? We want to see the team on the pitch playing brilliant football, scoring, winning games and winning silverware. That's what we want, right? But to do that on a consistent level, you've got to have a longer term plan, right? And that's all well and good. And I applaud it, provided that includes the not chopping and changing the manager every year, right? So I get why the fans are getting frustrated, or some fans are getting frustrated, and all the rest of it. And lots of fans. I mean, I get the Ange Postecoglou and all that kind of talk and all this sort of business, and I'm like,
well, on another note, there, Lee, what do you make of that? Because the fans saying, let Ange go or whatever, don't like the high line, don't like, this process, losing certain games, etc., and not giving the manager time. Realistically, if Postecoglou was to go tomorrow, then what? What's the answer?
So that's exactly my point, right? Whenever I've bothered to even kind of comment on that kind of stuff, that's my question, right? So what next? Where do you go from there then? Who are we bringing in, and what about all the players we've just invested in? What happens to them? What do we do about that? Are we just getting rid of all of them and rebuilding again and starting again? Like we've had this period. There was a mistake when they got rid of Pochettino or didn't support Pochettino. That was the first mistake, right? Since then, we've been playing catch up all the way through it. Just constant change, constant churn. So at some point you have to go, stop, right? Okay, what do we want? So if this is what they want now, this is the manager, we're giving him a longer term contract, and everything behind the scenes is built towards his vision of taking us forward as a team that's going to have consistent success. Because that's what they're talking about. A one-off trophy means nothing. If you're a West Ham fan, you've won a trophy a couple of years ago. Where are they now? In disarray, all over the place, and all the rest of it. What you want is that winning mentality all the time, consistency, and you have to build that from beyond, but from the back. So that's my view on it, and it's the same thing. And I'm not a Levy. I don't sit here and say Daniel Levy's great and all the rest of it, and right for it and all that. But people go, I hear it quite a lot where people say the fans have got to stand up. The fans have got to do something. And my question back then is, what? What do you want me to do? What? Okay, you tell me specifically what you want me to do, right? So when everybody was complaining about the Brentford, about the results, Coventry and all the rest of it, people were saying, oh, don't go to the games, blah, 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 and all the rest of it, going through a really difficult time. There was still 61,000 people in the stadium against Brentford. Right?
The thing is, though, Lee, a lot of fans for a long time have asked for a plan. And I think that there is a clear plan in place now. But as Postecoglou, Daniel Levy and Johan Langer in particular said, these things are not an easy fix. It is going to take time and patience is needed.
Exactly. What else can you do? And what else are you going to do? If you don't like it, you don't like what the club's doing, you don't like the direction, you don't like the manager, you don't like the owner, whatever. Okay, fine. But what can you physically do about that? Right? Because I want to go to the football because I love watching my football team play. Right? So what you're asking me to do maybe is to give up on my football team just because it's not necessarily in the way I want it to go. But I'm going to be there after they've gone. If Daniel Levy left tomorrow, I'd still be there. And if Daniel Levy, we get old together because we're a similar age, he dies, I die, my kids will still be there. My grandkids will still be there because they've bought into this club. So owners will come and go, but the fans will be there forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig, let's come to you. Let's round this up, the fans forum. Of course, Johan Langer did answer many questions about data and spoke heavily about the future and the development of the young players. And of course, Robert Villeham and Beth England, the Spurs women manager and captain respectively, they were talking about their 4-0 win over newly promoted Crystal Palace on Sunday. I was there. Fantastic performance from the Spurs women. They face Aston Villa away this coming weekend. Great to have them there as well and give their insight into what's happening at the club. What did you make of Johan Langer and his comments, Craig, at the fans forum?
I'll just come back to that. I just thought Robert Villeham was really good. Actually, he didn't really set any expectations. He mentioned about obviously the goal for them, which is a slightly different alignment to the men's team. He said that obviously the goal is top 4, but he's not sure that they're in that place at the moment, the ladies team, to actually do it, but they're going to try basically. I thought he spoke very well. Let's hope the Spurs ladies can actually kick on this season and climb that table, because it'd be good to see them play at the stadium a few more times once the interest grows around the women's game, to be honest, because some ladies teams are actually playing in the men's stadiums, of course, and the ladies haven't had that luxury all the time at Tottenham. So hopefully the interest will grow and they get that experience more and more. I thought Johan Lang was very good, probably the most interesting one to speak last night, I thought, because when he was speaking about they're basically not buying up 14-year-olds, but getting 14-year-olds into the academy so that when they're 15, they've got basically these players signing on for Tottenham. So he talked about the issues around the Europa League squad and having to have the 4 homegrown players in the squad, and they've struggled this year. We've only got 23 in that squad rather than 25 because we simply didn't have enough of those players. There's plans in place, exactly what you said, Chris. There's plans in place moving forward to deal with that in 2 or 3 years' time. I also thought it was really interesting what you were talking about age profiles of the midfielders being different to the strikers and the defence. That was really interesting. I hadn't even thought of that, about the age of the midfielders. They're going for a slightly different age profile, slightly older age profile, more experienced players. So that is really interesting. And him saying that it's not all data-led. They don't just purely go by data. They obviously use their eyes as well. But it's really good to see, again, that there is a plan in place. It doesn't seem to be hit and miss, like go out and get me this player, this experienced player, whether he fits the system or not. As I say, patience is the key, and patience is something that we're all going to have. Hopefully Daniel is going to be patient with Ange. They seem to have a decent enough relationship. And I hope they stick with him, because we seem to have the building blocks in place with Johan Lang and the team he's got behind him. Don't forget, Ange has gone in there and ripped up a lot of the stuff that he came into. He came into an absolute mess when he came in. His best player leaving, unrest in the dressing room, little cliques, players wanting to leave. It doesn't happen overnight. As Lee said, this doesn't happen overnight. And there are going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be ups and downs. We're going to lose games. We might lose 2 or 3 games in a row, but we've got to stick with this guy. We've got to trust the team he's got behind him.
Right, that's the fans forum done. Let's get on to the preview. Of course, Tottenham Hotspur face Azerbaijan side Qarabag on Thursday evening at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Now, so far in their league competition this season, they have played 6. They have won 5. They have lost 1. They have 15 points. They have a goal difference of plus 16. They are sitting top of the table. Now, some match facts and stats here. Tottenham have lost just 1 of their last 8 matches in the Europa League, winning 6 and drawing 1, although this defeat did not come in their most recent such match, a 3-0 defeat against Dynamo Zagreb back in March 2021. A game that we all remember extremely well because the Dynamo Zagreb manager was actually in prison that evening. Qarabag have lost all 6 of their meetings with English sides in all competitions, twice against Spurs in the 15-16 season, twice against Chelsea in the 17-18 season, and twice against Arsenal in the 18-19 season. Qarabag have reached the round of 16 in last season's UEFA Europa League, the furthest they have advanced in any major European competition. Their 4 wins were also their most in a single such campaign. This is the 3rd meeting between Tottenham Hotspur and Qarabag in major European competition, with Spurs winning both previous meetings in the 15-16 group stage of the Europa League. That was a 3-1 win and a 1-0 win. And Qarabag's Jorginho has been involved in 5 in his last 6. Been involved in 5 goals in his last 6 appearances in major European competition. 4 goals and 1 assist, netting in both round of 16 matches against Bayer Leverkusen last season. Now let's go to someone who knows a lot about our opponents on Thursday.
I'm Rasim with more than 30 years journalistic experience in the sports media. My articles have been published about 30 countries. I'm editor of the sports portal from Azerbaijan, idvan.biz. Qarabag is the best club in Azerbaijan for more than 10 years. They have no problems in domestic league. Qarabag more stronger than other clubs. I think Qarabag will easily win league title in Azerbaijan for the 11th time in last 12 seasons. The main person in Qarabag is Gurban Gurbanov. He's a coach of the team for 17 years. Qarabag, all players are key for the team. The fans' favorite players are top scorer Juninho, also Benzia, Zubir and Toral Bayramov. Tottenham and Qarabag have high-level possession, but Spurs game does not give stable result. There's a big competition in the Premier League, and Tottenham will not easily reach the Champions League for the next season. Yes, Qarabag lost all 6 matches English clubs, but never say never. You can always expect sensation by Qarabag. Qarabag will play in the group and league stage of European Cups for the 11th time in a row. I think it is not easy to beat Qarabag even they play away. Watch their matches against Bayer Leverkusen and Braga. Hope it will be draw.
Craig, let's come to you. Many thanks to Razim, by the way, for the preview. Great preview there. He says there, expect sensation. And he's also gone for a draw in this game. Now, what do you know about our opponents and what are you expecting from this game?
I know very little, I'll be honest. Azerbaijan football is not one I follow very often. Look, we should be looking to take this team apart, absolutely destroy them. That's what we should be looking to do. And I just hope we start fast. I hope we start like we did against Brentford, because they're not going to be able to live with us, let's be honest. But if we start slow, like we did at Coventry, they're going to prove a difficult opponent. And that if that first goal doesn't come, the crowd will get restless. So we just got to go at them straight from the start. This is the sort of team we need to pick up 3 points against. Honestly, with the greatest respect to Qarabag, we should be looking to put these away in the first half.
Mofo writes here, they gave Bayer Leverkusen a go, and they certainly did, because in March 2024, Leverkusen were 2-1 down, and then they equalised in the 93rd minute and then got a winner in the 97th minute. We know what Bayer Leverkusen did last season, incredible. They got to the round of 16 and they went out 5-4 on aggregate. Razim says there that they are a difficult team to beat. Matt, what sort of game are you expecting? Because I feel like a lot of us English fans are saying, oh, don't worry, they've played 6 games in Europe against English opposition. They've lost a lot. This is going to be easy.
Yeah. My worry is we take it too lightly. And likewise with the lineup, which I know we're going to come on to. So for me, start strong. And I think kind of 4 or 5 changes max from the weekend and take the game to them from the get-go. Because if we don't, and we take it lightly, you don't be in that position when you're kind of getting to the half-hour mark. They're putting the squeeze on us, and then the fans get restless, as Craig says, and anything can happen then. And for me, we've got to take the game with some respect and try and get the game done early and start strong and start with a good lineup for me. Otherwise, it could be a long evening, and we don't need that. We need to be taking this competition seriously, for me, as I've said. So I just hope we start strong.
Lee, let's come to you. I didn't expect to be talking to 3 Azerbaijan football experts this evening, but do you know any more than what the other guys have said about Qarabag and how you're feeling about being back in Europe? Because Spurs should always be in Europe, shouldn't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm actually really disappointed with Craig that he doesn't watch Azerbaijan football. Not like me. I watch Azerbaijan all the time. I'm forever watching that league, and I'll tell you, they are the muck's nuts. So, yeah, I'm expecting a really difficult. No, I have no idea about Qarabag, to be honest with you. I've got no clue whatsoever. But what I do know is that no game of football is ever easy. And that when a team is coming up against an opposition who are a big scalp, and like it or not, Tottenham will be a big scalp, going for their first win against an English side and all the rest of it. And we all hear the stories of Dr. Tottenham and all the rest of it. So that'll be playing in their minds, I'm guessing. They'll know that we're going through transition and that as well, and they'll know that we'll want to start quick, and they'll know that they'll want to get quieting the crowd down. So I'm not expecting an easy game. I'm not expecting an easy game at all. But in my prediction that I did for Dave, the Irish Hotspur, I did say that I thought we were going to win 3-0. So that sounds like an easy win, but I don't think it will be as easy. I think it'll be difficult, but I think we'll have enough, and with our momentum, we should be able to beat this team. And if we don't, then it's a bloody nightmare, isn't it? It's another Coventry scenario. But for me, I'm expecting this to be the game where we actually get a clean sheet. That's the one I'm looking for, is a clean sheet. I think that's the only thing that's missing from our point of view in terms of getting decent results. So, yeah.
Lee, before we look at the predicted lineups and the teams that you want as well, how are you feeling about this year in the Europa League? Of course, it is a brand new format, but realistically, how far do you think the Spurs can go in this competition?
Mate, I'm over the moon that we're back in it. As you know, I'm coming out to Budapest next week. I ain't got a ticket, but I'll be there as well. So I'm just really stoked to get out and get into that European situation again, because it's such a great day out and such a top competition. And if you can win a European trophy, I mean, that's just fantastic. I think it's so important for any club to kind of get into there and to get into the. All right, it's not the Champions League, but it's the second tier, and it leads us there. So for me, really, really important, and I'm really, really chuffed that we're in it for sure.
So ahead of this show, I did actually ask Craig, Matt, and Lee to send in 2 different lineups. One that they think that Ange Postecoglou will go with, and also an 11 that they would like to see if they were the Spurs manager. So, Craig, let's start with yours. This is the one that you want. This is the lineup that you actually want against Qarabag on Thursday. Austin, Udogi, Davis, Dragushin, Gray, Basuma, Sarr, Bergvall, Moore, Lancashire, and Johnson. Craig, do you want to talk us through this team, why you've gone with this?
I'm trying to put myself in Ange's shoes and what I think he would do and what I would probably do if I was manager. I think the back four should be pretty solid compared to the opposition I think we're going to be playing. I think the whole team should be enough. That whole team there should be enough to beat Qarabag, to be honest with you. I know there's a fair few changes there, but we've got a big game on Sunday as well. And like I said before, the Europa League, as much as I want to get off to a good start, if we did slip up in this game, I don't think we will, but if we did, it's not the end of the world. But I think that team, it gives players, I think there's good balance to it. I think it's giving players a run. I want to see Austin, because he is going to change the goalkeeper. I'd rather see Austin in goal than Forster. Yeah, I mean, some will probably say, "Thank God I'm not the Spurs manager."
Well, the only thing I'd say to you, Craig, is the amount of times that we've recorded podcasts and you've said, "I'd like to see Spurs go strong in cup competitions," and you've made these changes.
I have, yeah. I've, I just think that team should be big enough, good enough to beat Qarabag. To be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah, genuinely, I really do.
And now let's have a look at the team that you are predicting that Ange will put out on Thursday. Forster, Udogi, Davis, Dragushin, Gray, Basuma, Sarr, Bergvall, Timo Werner, Dominic Solanke, and Kulusevski. Your reasons behind this one?
I just think that's the team Ange is going to put out. I think the back four, to a certain extent, picks itself. Because I don't think he'll start Van der Ven. He'll want to give Udogi a bit more game time. He'll want to rest Oro. Dragushin's got to come in for Romero, because Romero's obviously suspended. Basuma, he'll want to give minutes to. Sarr fits in there alongside him well. Bentancur obviously played 90 at the weekend. Kulusevski's been our best player this season. Bergvall needs a run out. Solanke Obviously, he's got his first goal, so he would be a good one to start. Perhaps I think he'll probably play him for 60 minutes and then perhaps bring on Lancashire if he's in the squad and he's fit. And Werner, we know he's going to start Werner on that left wing. You just know he is. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Matt, let's come to yours. This is the team that you want. So you've gone with Vicario, Davis, Van der Ven, Dragushin, Gray, Bergvall, Basuma, Bentancur, and then the forward line of Heung-min Son, Solanke, and Kulusevski. A strong lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And stay true to what I say. You know, I think I would like us to take this seriously, this competition, and get the game done sooner rather than later. You know, really at home, we should be winning this comfortably. You know, all due respect to Qarabag, we should be going out there at home in front of our fans, first European match day in the competition, and take the game to them, and not leave it to chance. And then, you know, for me, that you can start hopefully make some changes, you know, for the second half. But yeah, Vicario for me, obviously, it's the strongest keeper we have. Obviously, Forster did look a bit shaky at times, I think, against Coventry. I think it's fair to say. So, yeah, I'll go with Vicario in goal. Gray, obviously, he needs some game time. And I think he's going to end up being quite a good utility player for us, actually, Gray. So I think for him, it makes sense for him to slot in there. Dragusin, for me, he's looked really solid so far this season when called upon. You know, he came in, obviously, I think, Newcastle away, went there, didn't he, and covered for Van der Ven. Looked solid. And obviously at Coventry, he played. So I think for him, it's important to get some game time. And with Van der Ven, you've got a bit of pace that gives us that cover there. And I think, again, it would be good for the two of them to have some time together playing in that back line. Then Ben Davies, obviously, at left back there. You know, he's a steady performer, isn't he, Davies? So a safe pair of hands. And, you know, potentially, like I say, if we're strong in the game second half, there's no reason why we can't then slot Davies to where Van der Ven is and rotate a little bit more. Then in midfield, Bergvall, you know, for me, again, he's been real positive. Bergvall, I think he looks very strong for a young lad. He's certainly growing game to game. And again, he's another one like Gray that needs some game time. But for me, he's been impressive so far. And Basuma next to him, I think just to give a bit more kind of experience in there. And again, getting Basuma up to full match fitness. And then obviously a strong kind of front end to the team there, Chris, with Kulusevski. You know, for me, you know, when he came on, you know, against Coventry and this season, for me, he's just been a different player. Kulusevski, he's looked really good. And he's a real threat in that area. Obviously, just moving him out there to the right with Bentancur, shifting him forward. You know, potentially got a domestic ban coming, Bentancur. So I think it's important he's going to be featuring heavily in the European competition. And I think he could play in that advanced role. Bentancur can be that lock picker for us. And then Sonny on the left to add that threat. Obviously, there is that debate between Sonny and Werner potentially for this competition. But I think first game at home, like I say, to try and get the game put to bed early. So for me, Son has to start with Solanke up top. And again, I think it's important for Son and Solanke to start getting an understanding with one another. And obviously with Solanke, he's had his injury, so he needs game time at the moment, and goals that are going to breed confidence for him. So that would be my lineup. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting what you said about Ben Davies, because I don't think Ben Davies got the credit he probably deserves for that goal line clearance at Coventry. And we probably didn't give him the credit on the Spurs Chat podcast after that game, because I think, a few of us, particularly me, was frustrated about the starting 11. But Kulusevski, I completely agree. He's been a different player this season so far. Matt, this is what you've predicted that Ange will put out. Forster, Gray, Dragushin, Davis, Udogi, Bergvall, Sarr, Bentancur, and then the forward three, or the front three, of Timo Werner, Dominic Solanke, and Brennan Johnson. It's interesting that you put Solanke in here, as did Craig, because he needs the game time, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what Ange wants, doesn't he? He wants to get him up to full match fitness, Chris. And like I say, if he can hopefully get a couple of goals as well, that's going to do no harm to his confidence. So yeah, and I think that broadly, we'll see obviously what team he does select, but I think broadly that's probably what he'll go with. Not too dissimilar to Coventry, and yeah, potentially rotate in the second half. But I do think Werner will feature, and possibly Johnson with Kulu on the bench to come on later in the game. So yeah, we'll see.
Is this the type of game, Matt, that Timo Werner can, take by the scruff of his neck and, assist, score, get his confidence up a little bit? And also, I wanted to ask you about Bentancur because you put him in this forward role here. The stats actually say that Bentancur has only had 4 touches in the opposition box in the Premier League games so far this season. Would you like to see him getting forward a lot more? Yeah,
I would, definitely, because I do think he brings quality on the ball. And look at the ball the other night at Coventry through to Brennan Johnson. He can, like I say, be a lock picker, and he can have that defence splitting pass for me, Bentancur. So yeah, I think that's where I'd like to see him play. Coming back to Werner, I mean, he got a hard time at Coventry, and admittedly he struggled in that game, but I don't like to see it. Obviously he's had his struggles. There's no getting away from that. And I think the fact he played for Chelsea doesn't help him. But listen, at home to Qarabag, if he's given the platform and the start and given the nod, then he absolutely should be kind of grabbing that game with both hands and doing what he can to obviously put the kind of Coventry performance behind him and hopefully get a goal or two. But he struggled. I was surprised we kind of went again with him this season. But yeah, I think the fans, we've just got to get that behind him. It does him no good getting on his back, in my opinion. So yeah.
Lee, let's come to you. This is the team that you would like to see Ange Postecoglou put out on Thursday evening. Vicario, Udogi, Van der Ven, Dragushin, Pedro Porro, Bentancur, Kulusevski, Bergvall, Son, Solanke and Johnson. You've gone very, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? I want us to go out there, get the game put to bed, and then make your changes. I'm not against the idea of Gray for Porro. If I'm being honest, I think that can still work, and I'm not absolutely against Ben Davies for Van der Ven. I think that worked okay against Coventry, and this is Qarabag, not Coventry. So there are a couple of other changes that I'd be okay with, but for me, I just wanted us to go as strong as we possibly could, get ahead, and then start tinkering with it and giving people the minutes rather than trying to bring them on at the end when you're struggling from behind and leaving it till the last minute. I'd rather quieten that down as quickly as I can.
Would you have Maddison on the bench, or would you give him the night off?
I mean, I think we've got, like with Bergvall and Kulu, I think you've got enough to cover for him for sure. But the other thing is you've got to look at that is he's really just started hitting his kind of standard that you want from him. So he might want to just keep playing to keep that momentum going, because once you've built that momentum, you don't really want to stop. So it's a real difficult one. Sometimes time off is not always the answer. I mean, if a player's struggling and they need a rest, for me, that's different. But if you're flying and you're playing your better football, the player's going to want to play, I think.
How would you describe it, Lee? Because when Pochettino was a Spurs manager, when we played in the Europa League, most of the time, and this is probably something that I'm quite heavily critical of Pochettino, during his time at Spurs, that when we played in the Europa League on the Thursday, he would rest players for, worried about the Sunday game. Yeah. And then the Sunday game didn't quite pan out as we wanted. And then we kind of fouled on the Thursday night and we fouled on the Sunday. So how does a manager juggle this?
Yeah, I mean, and Ange needs to do the right thing, right? So that's why he does need to make the changes. And I absolutely get it. But that doesn't mean to say you've got to not give it a go initially and mix it up a little bit, right? So I was the same with you with Pochettino, because it was all about trying to get to the top 4 to get in the Champions League rather than winning the competition that you're in. And I just never understood that. It just, for me, I don't, getting into the Champions League, yeah, okay, you get into the Champions League. Are you going to win it? Are you strong enough? Are you good enough to win the Champions League? Rather than we've got a good enough squad if we manage it right to win the Europa League or whatever. So for me, I always thought it was a strange thing, and I really didn't agree with it. But I think the other thing as well is I do feel like, and a lot of people might disagree with me, but I do feel like the bench that we've got now with players like Bergvall and Gray as backup players feels stronger than it has in previous seasons, where you've kind of looked at the bench and thought, who are you going to bring on there that's going to make a difference, you know? So, like for me, if you've got Kulu and Bergvall on the pitch there, and you look over at the bench and you've got Maddison to bring on, or vice versa, that feels stronger, right? So, yeah.
Well, this is the team that you are predicting that Ange Postecoglou will put out: Forster, Udogi, Davis, Dragushin, Gray, Bentancur, Sarr, Bergvall, and then the front three of Timo Werner, Solanke, and Johnson. Let me ask you that same question about Timo Werner, Lee. What have you made of him? He seems to have had quite a tough time. I know we're only a couple of games in, but he did get booed a couple of times at Coventry by our own fans. He needs a goal. He needs some confidence, doesn't he?
Listen, I can't be a hypocrite, right? I said before, I think probably the last time I was on the show, that I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Timo Werner. I don't feel like he does enough. People talk about his pace and all the rest of it. I've not really seen him take anybody on with that blistering pace that he's supposed to got. I don't see him crossing the ball enough. I see him cutting back a lot. Makes a lot of mistakes for me. So for me, I've never been a big fan, right? I wouldn't abuse him. I wouldn't abuse him online or go into a restaurant and make a mug of him. I wouldn't do something like that. But I personally just don't feel that he's good enough for us in this team. I've had other people say to me, he's a good player. There's a good player in there and all the rest of it. And I would absolutely love for him to do well. I'd absolutely love for him to do well because he's a Tottenham player. But I just, as it stands, I can't see it. But if I was there, I'd sing his name. I'd want him to do well. I'd want him to cheer him on. And if he turns out tomorrow and gets a hat trick or has a really man of the match performance, then I'll applaud it and I'll stand back and say, well, fair play to him. But again, it all comes back to the consistency. I want to see consistency from him, doing the right things, supplying those chances for someone like Solanke to put him in the back of the net if he's not going to do them himself.
I think that's the key word, Lee, for me with Ernest: consistency. He has been too inconsistent, and I think confidence affects him actually as well. You think what he was like at Leipzig before he went to Chelsea. He was a live wire, and he went to Chelsea. And to me, he's kind of never really recovered from that spell there. So consistency is what he needs, and needs a goal desperately.
I mean, how many man of the match performances has he had since he's been with us? How many times has he been man of the match?
The thing is, Lee, I do disagree with you slightly because I think that Timo Werner does work extremely hard. I just doubt the ability. I just doubt the confidence as well. And that's why I think that every podcast we've ever recorded since Timo Werner has come in, I've always asked the guests the same question. Do you think Ange Postecoglou can improve him? Let me ask you that, Lee.
Well, considering that he's been there a season already, the evidence would suggest not. And I'm not trying to be really overly harsh, but I just don't don't see it. I just don't see that level. I watch him, all the time, obviously, and when he plays, and for me, I just see him. He heads up the wing, and then it turns back all the time, or he calls for the ball, and it don't go anywhere. And I'm like, if you're supposed to be, quick and have the ability to take players on, when are you going to do that? Yeah. When are you gonna knock it past someone and just go for it? You've now got a target man in Solanke in the middle there. Yeah. Last season we didn't have that. You go, okay, but you've got Solanke in there. When are you gonna whip the ball around someone, beat them for pace, and whip that ball in there for him to get his head on?
It's interesting though, because even Son at the fans forum on Monday spoke about the improvements are needed and required in that final third. Ange Postecoglou has been saying that for the 14-15 months that he's been at the football club. And interestingly, Timo Werner, his stats in a Spurs shirt, his crossing accuracy is only 25%. That does need to be a lot better. And I know that I'm not just picking out Timo Werner here. A number of players, their crossing accuracy needs to be a lot better, especially as you said, Lee, with Dominic Solanke in the centre now, you need to be aiming for him to be tapping home every single game. And I'm sure that he will get a number of opportunities. Let's hear now from Tottenham Hotspur captain Heung-min Son. He has come out and said that Spurs need to take this competition seriously this season.
Yeah, it's a dream. There is no hiding about this, and so I think that's what we work for. Obviously, we're looking for another big competition that everybody wants to win. Yeah, it's gonna be tough competition, a lot of games and a lot of traveling, so which makes it even harder. So we just gotta be ready and take it serious, the competition, because it's a massive competition.
Craig, let's come to you on that. Heung-min Son said it's going to be a tough competition, but a lot of Spurs fans are feeling pretty confident that Spurs are going to go all the way.
Yeah, I mean, look, I said what I said about Qarabag, but we should be getting through this group. We should be getting out of it. I think you're going to come up against some more difficult teams in the last 16 onwards. Obviously, you are. But we have got to take it seriously, absolutely, because it's a route to the Champions League. And I genuinely think it's a cup we could go all the way in. I just want to see Sonny lift the trophy, Chris. If I'm honest, I just think it would be a travesty if he left the club without lifting a trophy. You know, as we've said many times. I think just going back to Timo Werner. I'm not convinced Ange could improve him as a player, but what I think he can do and what he's good at, he can give him the confidence to believe in his ability, which you'll hopefully see the results of on the pitch. I think at Timo Werner's age, you know, he should be in his peak, 27, 28 years old. If he can give him the confidence to use the ability that he clearly has got, then we're going to reap the benefits of that.
Let's have a look. Well, Heung-min Son also spoke out about his contract situation.
Yeah, we haven't talked anything yet. So I think I say in the fan forum, it was very clear for me. It's just like I'm very focused for this season. At this age, is every second is like a goal, you know. So for especially this season, we are in a lot of competition. Feels like I'm taking even more care about this, and just I say, I think I'm just fully focused on this situation, and this year just want to win something that everybody in this club and these players and all around that deserves, and that's what I'm working for. And in the end, future, you never know what's gonna happen, but yeah, I will make sure that I give everything for this club, because it's been almost 10 years that I give everything. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Matt, let's come to you on those comments from Heung-min Son. He said every second is gold. Talked about being at the club for 10 years. Talked about, you know, that desire to win a trophy, as we all do week in, week out on this podcast. Now, it is expected, and the Sun newspaper and the Evening Standard today have both reported that it is expected that Spurs will trigger that 1-year extension. What do you expect to happen? What would you like to see happen with Heung-min Son's future?
First and foremost, you'd want to trigger the extension for me. And we obviously want to see him leave the club with a trophy for me. I think what's interesting, this is the first time we've heard him kind of speak like this publicly, because he's talking very much short term there, isn't he? This year, focused on this year.
Yeah.
He's not looking further ahead than that at the moment. But for me, I'd want to obviously trigger that extension, take a review kind of the end of the season, see how that obviously has gone with him, and then look at the midterm. Unless he's got plans that, as kind of the guys were saying, perhaps he does want to go back to South Korea towards the end of his career, and we wouldn't begrudge him that either. Yeah, absolutely, we should be extending his contract. For me, you know, he's captain. He loves the club, and you still need that mix of experience, like we've said. We are obviously changing the age profile in the squad, but you still need that blend of experience. And Sonny is certainly someone we should be holding on to for the future as it is now. You know, short term and to mid term.
Let's now get the team news from Ange Postecoglou ahead of Thursday's game against Qarabag.
Now we're looking at good. okay. Nothing sort of from the weekend in terms of injuries. Everyone sort of pulled up really well, and no issues there. And obviously, apart from the injuries, the obvious absences are Romero and Spence and Reguilon, who are training today, but obviously for different reasons are eligible.
Lee, interestingly, you spoke about Sergio Reguilon there. Of course, he won't be featuring in this game because not in the squad, but he was in the squad for the Coventry game. Are you surprised by this?
Not really, because obviously he's still at the club. He's still a player. He's still a pro. He's got experience and stuff like that. You can't just ignore that, and you've got to make people feel like people, right? You've got to give them a level of respect and make them not feel like. I mean, I don't like the idea of someone being banished to go and play on their own because they're not part of your ideas or whatever. I think people need a level of respect, and I think Ange and the coaching staff are kind of giving that. Because I mean, if you look at the situation with Spence, we all thought Spence was out the door and he was on his way.
Yeah.
But how quickly that's turned around, and now he looks like he could be, a player for the cup competitions and so on. So you don't know. You don't know what's going to turn around. But like I say, I think it's probably just a level of respect for him as a person, and for the fact that he's a pro with a level of experience. So.
Well, Ange Postecoglou, ahead of Thursday, said in his press conference today that he is pleased to be back in the Europa League.
Yeah, no, really sort of pleased to be back there, excited about being back in it. I spoke about it last year that it was a real gap in our sort of calendar, and I think didn't help us at certain times of the year not having that sort of regular football and that challenge of playing against different types of opposition and sort of exposing our whole squad to some real meaningful game time. So for a number of reasons, and the worst thing was sitting around watching other teams playing it. That didn't sit well with me either. So being back in European competition is important.
Craig, what does it mean to you as a fan for Spurs to be back in Europe? Because I tell you what, me going to the home and away games, it seemed really weird last year not going to any European aways.
Yeah, I mean, I remember enough years of us not being in Europe. And then obviously, I think from around 99, obviously, when we won the Cup, we was in Europe that year. And we've been in it, I think, every season since 2008 to some degree or another. And obviously last year it was a bit flat, wasn't it? Not having that football during the week. It just seemed very long between games, like Saturday to Saturday. Obviously slightly different this year. We're going to be playing a lot on a Sunday. And the games are coming thick and fast. But look, it's where we want to be. It's where the club needs to be. I love to see us in Europe, no matter what the competition. Obviously, Champions League is the pinnacle, but I think this is about our level at the moment. And I'm really looking forward to the game tomorrow. Hopefully, starting off with a win.
Lastly, let's get score predictions. Craig, what are you going for?
I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say 4-0 Tottenham.
Wow. You didn't take any notice of that Bayer Leverkusen game then?
No, none at all. Each game's different. I think they're going to be looking forward to playing in our stadium. I can't imagine they're going to have a massive crowd coming with them. I just want that stadium to be rocking tomorrow night. The crowd get behind them. I just want an early goal because I think you get one, and I think the floodgates will open. So, yeah, 4-0, I'm saying.
That would be a great start in the Europa League. Matt, what are you going for?
For me, 3-0. 3-0, I think, Chris. For me, I just, like we were saying, it'd just be nice to see a clean sheet tomorrow. 3-0, and hopefully, I think Solanke with a brace. That'd be nice, and set the tone for the rest of the campaign, really. So yeah, let's get off to a good start.
And Lee, what are you going for?
Well, I did my prediction with Dave, didn't I? And I said it earlier. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go with a 3-0 win. So you got to stick with your courage of your convictions, haven't you?
I'm going to go for a professional 2-0 win. And interestingly, we've all gone for a clean sheet.
Clean sheet. Where's the logic?
None.
Brilliant. Well, Well, Craig, thanks so much for joining me again. You've done so many podcasts with me recently, so thank you so much for all of your help and support. Where can people find you on social media, Craig?
No problem at all. Yeah, at Dearman9 on X. And I was going to say it again, if you haven't voted in the Football Content Awards, please, as soon as you get off this stream, get on there and vote. The link's all over Chris's social media, and I think on this, it's probably underneath this video somewhere on YouTube, Chris, isn't it? So, yeah, get in there. There's 2 categories, best in social and what's the other one, Chris? Best content creator?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, please vote. Please vote. Every vote counts, as they say. Tell your family to vote. Tell your postman, your butcher, your baker, your candlestick maker, because it's well deserved. So thanks for having me on. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll be cheering on Spurs to a victory.
Some of the quotes on this podcast sometimes I never thought I'd hear. And your postman, Matt, where can people find you? What are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, so on X, MJ_THFC. So feel free to give me a follow. I tend to follow all Spurs fans back on there. And I've got Instagram there. People want to go over to the account there. In terms of being up to, obviously, watching Tottenham, Chris, as you know, seeing you last week up at Coventry. I think it's just great to have football every 3 or 4 days now, and travelling up and down the country, and looking forward to some of the away European games as well. So, yeah, a lot busier this season, and let's just hope we've got something to celebrate at the end of the season. But yeah, thanks for having me back on.
Thank you so much, Matt. And tell everyone about the T-shirts, because I saw Ricky Norwood on TalkSport the other day wearing one of your T-shirts.
Oh, was he? Yeah, like I say, people go across my Instagram, you can print your football shirt, your Spurs shirt, and obviously you can create T-shirts as well with your favourite players on. So feel free to DM me there.
And Lee, where can people find you, and what are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, my socials are still there, but I'm not actively checking them, to be honest with you. The only place you'll find me really is on my YouTube channel, Lee the Dorset Spur. I'm still doing all my reviews of the games and stuff like that, and as we said earlier, my little podcast adventure that I'm having with Sweary, Alex, and Dean. So yeah, if you want to come across to that and give me a follow, I'd really appreciate it. So. But thanks for having me on, Chris, and I echo what Craig said. Get your postman out there voting for him.
Lee, thank you so much, and best of luck with the podcast. I'm sure it'll go extremely well. So please do, everyone, go over to Lee's channel and hit that subscribe button and watch his wonderful content. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. Craig, Matt, Lee, you've been great guests this evening. Really enjoyed today's show, by the way. So thank you so much for all of your input, and let's hope that Spurs can get off to a winning start in the Europa League. And let's hope that we can lift a trophy this season. You never know. Stranger things have happened. Come on, you Spurs.